You want to go first?
Should we tell the Baltimore school story?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So we became interested in education when we were undergraduates in college, and we lived in Baltimore, and we became interested in the children in my neighborhood who were poor and seemed to need some structure and some educational experiences. And so we began to structure experiences for these kids, and we ended up finding a church that was interested in providing a space for every Saturday morning. And so every Saturday morning we would have Saturday school with these kids, and we would organize our friends from college to do different kinds of centers and activities. So the chemistry major would do chemistry experiments, and the English literature person would do some kind of activity, and so on. And that became a summer school, and so we became interested in children generally, and decided when we were done with our undergraduate degree to become certified as teachers. And so we did that.
Because neither of us had an education background.
Yeah.
We were in other majors.
Yeah. So we did that, and our initial interest for both of us was in general education. But after teaching 4th grade and 1st grade,
well, we wanted to start a school of our own.
Yeah, because we had that Saturday school. And,
so the idea was to go to school, get a master's degree in certification, and then get doctoral degrees to give us further legitimacy, if you will. But the end goal was for a good number of years to start our own school.
Yeah. So after teaching in a general education classroom for each of us, we became interested in children who had learning difficulties. And so that kind of eventually set us en route toward studying about learning disabilities. And we never really did get back to that idea of starting a school. We became interested in studying problems and trying to find solutions, and so that's brought us to where we are.
So to continue to try to answer your question, and I think people might find this kind of interesting. When we first started as academics, Marty Kaufman was in charge of something called the Division of Innovation and Development in the Office of Special Education Programs. So the Division of Innovation and Development was the research piece of OSEP. And Marty, who was just a wonderful guy, found that he could get the most money for special education research if it was placed in the context of general education. And so there was lots of money and lots of opportunity to develop academic programs and behavior programs for students with disabilities who would be in regular classrooms. So our charge from the agency was develop programs that would help regular classrooms become so accommodating for such a great diversity of kids that most kids with disabilities would be able to thrive. And so we spent many years doing that, and from that work came such things like peer-assisted learning strategies in reading and in math, and we modified curriculum-based measurements so that classroom teachers could actually, use it, and so doing this for about 15 years, we increasingly became aware and troubled by the fact that there was always a group of kids who were not responsive to these programs, even when we had evidence that these programs were generally effective. And we're not just general, but pretty robust. So we had low achieving, average achieving, high achieving kids.
Even learning disabilities.
And even some learning disabilities. But there was always this knot of kids who seemed to benefit not at all. And So we actually became concerned about these inadequate responders well before RTI. And we started reorienting before RTI toward these kids. More and more we felt like these were the kids that we really needed to focus on because no one was focusing on them. And so I would say that in the past 10 years, our research has increasingly narrowed on these kids. And so we're interested now in developing academic programs for these kids. We're interested in what makes these kids tick and what makes them different from the kids who are more likely to respond to a good Tier 1 program.
Or even a Tier 2 program.